straight ahead on Law&Crime Daily.
Any suggestion that I am not complying with requests or orders or demands or search warrants about my phone, that's a lie.
Days after that claim from Alec Baldwin, Santa Fe authorities talk about the actor's phone and whether he's handed it over. Plus,
I'm perfectly calm all the time, and he really stresses me out.
The results of an independent investigation into a traffic stop with Gabby Petito weeks before her murder. And
this is not the Rittenhouse case. I know Judge Schrader. I consider Judge Schrader a friend of mine. I have never required the state or told the state how to refer to somebody when they're on the stand.
A high-profile Wisconsin case hanging over the upcoming murder trial of Theodore Edgecomb. But first,
this investigation is geared towards as if Harmony is still alive.
New questions about a state agency's involvement with Harmony Montgomery more than 2 years after she disappeared. Law&Crime Daily covering court cases from coast to coast. Welcome everyone to Law&Crime Daily. I'm Brian Buckmeyer along with Terry Austin. The stepmother of a missing New Hampshire girl faces new welfare charges as a search continues for 7-year-old Harmony Montgomery. Law&Crime's Anjanette Levy is here with information about the new charges in question surrounding a state agency's handling of the case. Anjanette?
Brian, prosecutors in New Hampshire dropped one welfare fraud charge against Kayla Montgomery, but they've added other charges, including a felony theft by deception count. Now, Kayla Montgomery has been in jail since last week. She's accused of accepting food stamp benefits for Harmony Montgomery after she claims Harmony's dad sent her to live with her biological mother in Massachusetts back in 2019. But prosecutors say Kayla Montgomery continued to use the food stamp money for about 16 months after Harmony left the home. Kayla Montgomery claims she tried to have Harmony removed from the family's food stamp account. Now, Kayla Montgomery's husband, Adam Montgomery, is in jail facing a second-degree assault charge. He's accused of punching Harmony in the face back in 2019. Family members said Montgomery was physically abusive with Harmony. No one has seen Harmony since late 2019. Her mother reported her missing last month after not being able to locate her daughter. Now, Manchester, New Hampshire's police chief, Alan Aldenberg, held a briefing. He said the reward in this case for information that leads to Harmony Montgomery is now up to $104,000. And this comes as the chief answered questions about police calls that happened in the past at Harmony's last known address. Chief Aldenberg answered those questions about the police department's involvement with Harmony, and it was noted that the department had actually contacted New Hampshire's Department of Children's, Youth, and Family Services about Harmony. Now, there are serious questions about how Harmony's case was handled by that agency. Chief Aldenberg answered questions about the police department's contact with the little girl.
I'm extremely confident I will stand behind the work of this police department that led us up to 12/27, and I stand even firmer behind it from 12/27 to today. I'm not going to point fingers at any other agency because I don't think it's going to do the investigation any good. I'm standing in front of you, okay? I'm the one answering questions. So if that doesn't paint the picture, I'm going to leave it at that.
Now, I exchanged emails with the New Hampshire Department of Children's, Youth, and Family Services last week. The spokesperson said they couldn't comment on this case, citing confidentiality reasons. I followed up with a second email asking more questions, and that email was not returned. Meanwhile, Kayla Montgomery will be back in court to answer to these new charges on January 24th. Brian?
Thanks, Anjanette. Joining us today is legal analyst Kirk Nurmi and Terry Austin. Kirk, one charge gone and 3 in its place for Kayla Montgomery. The charges are similar but different. How so?
Yeah, well, one of the most obvious differences that's going to stand out to people is we went from a misdemeanor to a felony. And it shows that the state now is wanting to turn up the heat on Miss Montgomery. But of course, it means more jail time, prison time, that sort of thing. But the other thing it does that people might not think about is if somebody's convicted of a felony, they're not eligible for some of the social services, the programs, especially if they're defrauding those programs moving on in the future. So she wouldn't be eligible for some of those services. And all that is to turn up the heat under the theory that they think she knows something about perhaps what Harmony's father did or what happened to Harmony in general.
And maybe it creates incentives for her to actually give that information because they can remove some of those collateral consequences you're talking about if she plays ball. Terry, as this case evolves with new information coming to light, how does it affect the search for Harmony and the cases against Kayla and Adam?
Well, Brian, the more information they uncover, the better we'll be able to determine exactly what happened to Harmony, and the better they'll be able to prosecute the cases against the defendants. But I think the FBI should be called into this, and I understand that the police has spoken to the FBI, but they've not yet responded to the case and may not. They need resources here so they can investigate Adam and Kayla Montgomery, but also the biological mom and also the Department of Children's Services for both, in my opinion, Massachusetts and New Hampshire.
Now, Anjanette, what do we know about the investigation so far into Harmony's disappearance?
Tight-lipped about the investigation, but we know over the last weekend, police had gone to the last known address of Harmony Montgomery. She hadn't lived there, and neither had her parents in some time. Her father hadn't lived there, but they searched that property. What they found, what they were looking for, is not exactly clear. Obviously, any evidence of Harmony, they said they're trying to find her alive and hopeful to find her alive, but they're obviously looking for anything that can lead them to any information about what happened to her.
And as Anjanette said, they are looking for more and more information. Of course, they have that reward of, I believe you said $100,004. And if you have information about young Montgomery, please send that information. Thank you all. In New Mexico, a teenager faces attempted murder charges after police say she gave birth and left her newborn in a dumpster after wrapping him in garbage bags. Over the weekend, Hobbs police arrested 18-year-old high school student Alexis Avila after 911 callers found the baby while dumpster diving. Police say surveillance video shows Avila drive up to the dumpster and place a garbage bag inside of it. The baby, now recovering in a Texas hospital's neonatal intensive care unit, spent 6 hours inside the dumpster. At a press conference this week, officials explained what information Avila revealed after her arrest.
During the interview, she said she was not aware that she was pregnant until January 6, 2022, when she sought medical attention for abdominal pain and constipation. She explained that on Friday, January 7th, she was experiencing stomach pain and unexpectedly gave birth. She further explained that she panicked, did not know what to do or who to call. She stated that she then cut the umbilical cord, wrapped the baby in a towel, and placed the baby inside a white trash bag containing some trash, and then inside a larger black trash bag. She explained that she then started driving around until she decided to place the baby inside a green-colored dumpster near the JCPenney store. Alexis was asked by investigators what she thought would eventually happen to the baby by placing him inside of a plastic bag and dumping him. Alexis remained silent and could not answer.
Wednesday, a judge ordered Avila be placed on house arrest at her parents' home. She's also required to wear a GPS tracker. Still ahead on Law and Crime Daily, the Kyle Rittenhouse case still lingers in Wisconsin, where judges push up against rulings made in Kenosha County. But first, more questions answered in Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito's August traffic stop. What officials say officers did wrong after the break.
Hi, this is Dan Abrams with exciting news for all of our Law and Crime followers on YouTube. You can now get the live Law and Crime Network with YouTubeTV for all of your daily live trial coverage, legal news, expert analysis, and original true crime programs. Subscribe to YouTubeTV today and then locate Law and Crime in the channel guide. And for only $1.99 a month, you can add the network to your bundle. Watch Law and Crime every day with YouTubeTV. We put you in the jury box.
Welcome back to Law and Crime Daily. The Queen of England strips son Prince Andrew of his royal titles as a United States federal judge denies the motion to dismiss the sexual assault lawsuit against him. On Thursday, Queen Elizabeth II removed Prince Andrew from his military affiliations and royal patronages. A statement from Buckingham Palace reads in part, quote, "The Duke of York will continue not to undertake any public duties and is defending his case as a private citizen." This week, a judge has denied a motion to dismiss the suit against Prince Andrew filed by Virginia Giuffre, who is also a Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell accuser. Giuffre says the British royal sexually assaulted her when she was trafficked to him by Epstein and Maxwell when she was 17. Prince Andrew argued a 2009 settlement Giuffre made with Epstein barred her from suing him. Giuffre accepted a payout of $500,000 from Epstein and agreed it would be confidential. The lawsuit now moves into the discovery phase, which involves taking depositions. If the case is not settled, it could move to trial later this year. And months after responding to the Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito domestic disturbance in Utah, an independent investigation recommends officers be placed on probation for their response to the incident. It was the body camera footage seen around the world, showing an August 12, 2021 traffic stop of a noticeably upset Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie. Officers pulled the pair over after seeing their van speed up and run into a curb. The pair later told officers they had been in a fight, saying Petito hit Laundrie first. Officers told the couple Petito must be arrested under Utah statute, but later agreed to not charge her when she agreed to spend the night away from Laundrie. An independent review of the traffic stop found officers neglected to cite Gabby Petito for domestic violence and made several unintentional mistakes. Petito and Laundrie's story captivated the nation when she was reported missing in early September. Her body was found weeks later in Grand Teton National Park. Officials determined her cause of death to be strangulation. Brian Laundrie's remains were found in a Florida reserve in October. His death was ruled a suicide. Let's bring in legal analysts Kirk Nurmi and Terry Austin to discuss the latest in the Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie case. Terry, several unintentional mistakes is how the responding officers are being described. Does this mean any punishment beyond probation?
Listen, I don't think they should have even gotten probation, so I hope they don't get more punishment beyond that. The report says that they neglected their duty by failing to make an arrest as far as Gabby Petito is concerned. But I'm not sure they saw the same video I saw. If anyone should have been arrested, it would have been Brian Laundrie. And I say that because she was clearly upset. She had a scratch on her face. And frankly, that might have been domestic violence. And she, as we all know, ended up being murdered by Brian Laundrie. So frankly, I think what the officers did was reasonable. And, you know, it was a mild case. Who would have known it would have ended up the way it did?
Now, Kirk, if these, let's call them well-meaning officers, made this mistake, does that not suggest that there could be problems at the department level? And how do those get addressed?
Well, I'm going to disagree with Terry here because it seemed pretty obvious that under the state law and under all department policies that Gabby, even though we can look retrospectively and see her as the victim in this situation, should have been arrested. The report's extensive. It's over 100 pages. And ultimately, I do think it is going to bring changes throughout the entire department. It should be used as a training tool. Because while these officers might have been well-meaning in not wanting to arrest Gabby and doing everything they could not to arrest Gabby, maybe had they arrested her, the whole course of events would have changed. And that's not their call to make. It's their policy to follow.
All right, we'll see how those department changes and maybe also individual changes occur. Like we said, the officers are on probation. We'll continue to follow the story as it unfolds. Coming up on Law and Crime Daily, was the Rust movie set shooting a tragic accident or sabotage? What the movie's armorer alleges in a new lawsuit. Plus, a man in Wisconsin is set to stand trial for the murder of a prominent attorney. How the monumental Kyle Rittenhouse case has taken center stage in Theodore Edgecomb's coming trial. Welcome back to Law and Crime Daily. Advocates call for a new judge in the Theodore Edgecomb murder trial in Wisconsin. This after the defense says Judge David Borowski has shown bias against his case. Edgecomb is accused of killing Milwaukee immigration attorney Jason Clearman during what police are calling a road rage incident. It happened in September of 2020. Clearman and his wife were driving and Edgecomb was riding his bike in the opposite direction. Clearman's wife says she had to swerve to miss hitting Edgecomb. Video not made public yet shows Edgecomb reached into the car and punched Clearman through the open window at a red light. The next part is also captured on security video. The couple follows Edgecomb around a corner. That's when Clearman gets out of the car and Edgecomb shoots him. Prosecutors say Edgecomb fled the state and was arrested months later. He is now claiming self-defense. At a motions hearing on Monday, the defense argued that calling Clearman a victim goes against its self-defense argument.
The next motion in limine asks that the state be precluded from using language that assumes the defendant committed a crime by shooting the deceased. Such language, such as the use of the word victim, or that the defendant committed a, quote, crime, or that officers arrived at the crime scene is being objected to.
One could argue that alleged crimes were committed by the Clearmans as well, in terms of reckless endangering safety or going armed with a weapon, disorderly conduct, things of that nature. So that's another basis for our request, is if they're going to use those terms, then I think it would be fair game for the defense.
Jury instruction for homicide, if the court, and the court knows this, it states the defendant did cause the death of, and then in the jury instruction it says, insert name of victim. This is a homicide. He's a victim.
Right. Let me jump in. It's a homicide. He's a victim. Whether he was the victim of a self-defense situation or he was the victim of a reckless homicide is what the jury is to determine.
Gavel-to-gavel coverage of this trial begins next Tuesday here on Law and Crime Network. Let's bring in legal analyst Kirk Nurmi and co-host Terry Austin to discuss the coming Edgecomb trial. Terry, as you see these motions being decided, do you see this case being more difficult for one side or the other before it even starts?
I actually think it's going to be more difficult for the defendant here because now he has to face this intentional homicide and the reckless homicide. So he's going to have to show that his deadly use of force was reasonable, frankly, and I think that's going to be difficult, or the prosecution's going to have to show that it's unreasonable. And, you know, when you look at the facts of the case, we know that there was an exchange of words, but we also know that Edgecomb punched Clearman through the window, and we know ultimately that Clearman got out, there was a confrontation, and Edgecomb shot him. So was that reasonable? Was it intentional? I think it's going to be hard for the defense.
Now, Kirk, judge denying all of your motions is bias. Here I thought that was just a part of being a public defender. But could these be grounds for an actual removal of a judge?
Well, you know, it typically is, right? Us former public defenders talk about, you know, having an extra prosecutor in the courtroom. He or she's just wearing a robe. And we're seeing some of that here. And it's not just the denial of the motion, but it's the tone. You can see this judge step in, interrupt the prosecution, and go after the defense attorneys for even raising certain issues. And he says he's not going to help, you know, constrain the state on how they try their case, but he's certainly doing it with the defense. So he's not coming across as an impartial referee, but rather a biased party. So I understand. So if I was at that defense table, I would be looking at any mechanism I had under the rules to remove him as the judge in my case, not just because of the rulings, but because of the demeanor and the fact that he's not going to give my client a fair trial.
I mean, when I think about this case, I think about that picture of Kyle Rittenhouse looking over the shoulder of Judge Schrader as they're looking at exhibits and how different that scene is compared to what's going on with Theodore Edgecomb. I agree, Kirk, the defense may have an argument here that's a little different. When we come back, conflicting reports about a search warrant for Alec Baldwin's cell phone. The actor says he's complying, but New Mexico police say they haven't received the phone. The latest on the Rush shooting investigation after the break. Welcome back to Law and Crime Daily. New developments in the Alec Baldwin Russ movie set shooting investigation out of New Mexico. Days after the actor proclaims he is cooperating with the investigation. The Santa Fe Police Department says it still does not have Alec Baldwin's cell phone. As Law and Crime Daily reported, Baldwin posted a video to his Instagram last week saying it was a, quote, lie that he was not cooperating with the investigation in handing over his cell phone. On Thursday, the Santa Fe Police Department released a statement saying it issued a search warrant for the actor's cell phone nearly 1 month ago. All this comes as the film's armorer, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, sues the supplier of ammunition and guns for the film set. Gutierrez-Reed accuses the supplier of giving them boxes of ammunition containing live rounds, but they should have only been dummy rounds. In October, Baldwin fired a gun on the set, killing cinematographer Helena Hutchins and injuring director Joel Souza. Kirk, the armorer claims sabotage, saying that real bullets were mixed in with the dummy rounds. What sort of outcome could we see in that lawsuit?
Well, I think we're going to get a couple of things. Obviously, I think the armorer is starting to feel the heat of this investigation ramping up, what's going to be found out. So she's looking for someone else to blame. I don't know what kind of damages she would have to sue this company in terms of civil damages, but here she goes. She's trying to deflect blame. And I think we're going to find out in the discovery process of this, the company, the supplier, is going to deny that they were the source of these live ammunition. And that could open up a whole new can of worms when this investigation goes forward. Who put those things there? And if they can prove that they didn't do it, that's going to turn the lens of suspicion onto somebody else, someone on the set.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how the discovery process works out. Terry, things aren't adding up. Baldwin says he's cooperating, but the Santa Fe Police Department say they requested his phone back in December. So what can we believe?
You know what, Brian? The age-old adage is true. Actions speak louder than words. And Baldwin is claiming that he wants to cooperate. And thus far, he has been cooperating. But the fact that he doesn't want to turn over his phone means that he is not fully cooperating. He has to be in fear that showing the phone is going to demonstrate that perhaps he does have some sort of criminal liability here. And even worse, I think he's worried about the fact that it could show that he has some sort of responsibility as far as civil liability. So he needs to turn over that phone.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes as it continues. Thank you both. And thank you for joining us here at Law and Crime Daily. We'll see you next time as we discuss justice in America.